What is up, guys? Melock here, and today we are doing a mod spotlight on Applied Energistics. So this mod is pretty hefty. It's kind of intimidating, but I'm going to try to cover this, all the blocks and items, as best as possible. So the first thing that we're going to cover is adds a new type of ore to the game, and it's called Syrtis Quartz. When you find it in the world and when it spawns randomly, it's going to look like this. And this is probably one of the main ores in the mod. Of course, it's going to use some of the vanilla ores and even Nether Quartz a lot too. But this is the main thing that it adds and that it's going to use. So very early game, what you're going to find out is it's pretty hard. Like, 10 minutes in, is if you're mining and you want to go ahead and process it, but you don't want to throw it in a furnace. You want to go ahead and get dust. Like you can try to build a macerator or a pulverizer, but you're probably not going to have all the power and stuff necessary to run those kinds of things. So early game, something that's very useful is something called a grindstone. So you make a grindstone. I'm not going to be showing the recipes, by the way, because you guys can just look these recipes up when you're playing, because I'm assuming whatever mod pack you're playing this in has NEI. If it doesn't, then install NEI. It's very useful. And the next thing you're going to need after a grindstone is a wooden crank. So you right-click the wooden crank on here, then you put your ores in the grindstone. It could be iron, it could be Syrtis Quartz, it could be whatever you want it to be. And then we're going to right-click. You see it does a nice little turning motion. Then you keep right-clicking a lot. And this is manual, by the way, so it's kind of like clockwork engines, I guess. So we're going to keep grinding it here for a second. We're going to see what happens. And you see, I already grinded one iron, and it went ahead and doubled my yield and made pulverized iron. So you can go ahead and start doubling everything very early on. Right here with Nether Quartz, whenever you mine this naturally in the world, assuming you don't have fortune on your pick, it's going to turn into one Syrtis Quartz and one Syrtis Quartz dust, which is both useful for everything in the mod. You can also use the grindstone, and I'm not actually sure if the grindstone yields more or less. Okay, so looks like the grindstone yields double, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe it's just only Syrtis Quartz, so maybe you're better off mining it. Okay, so the next thing up is basic networking. So the first thing you want to do in your network is you want to make a Emmy controller, and this is the main thing that ties everything in your network together. Also, before we do that, I wanted to show with quartz you can make all this stuff. You can make quartz axe, quartz hoe, quartz shovel, quartz sword, and quartz cutting knife, which is used for a couple things. Let's press U on it, and you see it's used to make processors, which we'll cover here in a little bit. And you have a quartz wrench, just like any mod that adds a wrench, it's used exactly the same way. You also have a quartz pickaxe. So back to the basic network. The first thing you want is an Emmy controller. This is what ties everything together. This is your main central hub here. Everything will come off of your controller, and what you need to do is you need to find some sort of power, because Applied Energistics, for your network, it requires power. So as you see right here, I just have a creative energy cell, which shows that the new Thermal Expansion 3 stuff actually works. So I have a creative energy cell in here. I have my Emmy controller. Now what do I do next, you might ask? Well, I suggest starting out with the basics. So the basics is going to be finding some kind of storage and also getting some kind of peripheral so you can see what you have in your storage. So we're going to go ahead and grab some of the stuff. There we go. Okay, so starting off with storage, there's pretty much three things you can do starting off with storage. You can either make an Emmy Drive, you can make a Emmy Chest, or you can make a storage bus with like a chest or a barrel or a whatever mod adding thing that holds items. So we're going to go ahead and use some of this stuff. So let's place, the first thing, I like to always jump to an Emmy Drive straight off, but we're going to start off with an Emmy Chest because it's easier to make, I'm pretty sure. So you have an Emmy chest, it's connected to the thing, but you're like, well, what do I do? It's not holding anything. Well, that's where these storage cells come in. Now you have four different types of storage cells. You have a 1K, which holds 1024 bytes and 63 types, a 4K, which holds 4096 bytes and 63 types, 16K, which holds 16,000 bytes, and a 64K, which holds 65,000 bytes. Now you're like, what does bytes mean? Well, honestly, bytes isn't number of items. I don't know the exact calculations or math. I've never even tried to look it up, but let me just say that this 65 bytes is way more than 65,000 items. Also, 1,000 bytes is way more than 1,000 items. But you see this types down here that shows it can only hold 63 types of items. So, for example, iron, if you have iron and copper, that's 2 types of items, so you've already filled up 2 of the 63 total types. So what you're going to find out early on is you're not going to have a lot of items, so they're not going to fill up really fast, but you're going to fill up your types very fast because you're going to throw all your random junk in there, like swords and whatever else you want to. I try to keep mine decently clean. So you're going to probably, early on, you probably want to craft a 1 or 4K drive. So we're just going to go ahead and throw this 1K in here. You'll notice it lights up. And we look here, it shows I have an Emmy Chest on the network. Also, we'll be covering some of the new GUI changes to Applied Energistics as we go along. All the new blocks and items like spatule, pylons, and all that stuff will be at the very end of the video. So if you want to see that, then I'll probably have an annotation linked in the video somewhere. Okay, so you have an Emmy Chest, and you're like, well, what do I do now? Well, you want to start storing your items, right? So let's grab some, let's see, some dirt, some stone, some cobblestone, and some wood. Okay, so right here you have 2 different things you can do. You can either directly input this into the chest like this, and stone like that. So you're gonna look in your at your drive here, and it's gonna say there's 64 of 1,024 bytes used and 4 of 63 types. So I have 4 types of items here, so I've already used up 4 of the 63. Now what you can do is, the very cool thing about Applied Energistics is you can actually take this out. Then I look at it, I still have all my items stored in here. I put this back. I can actually, what I can do is I can put out an Emmy Drive, and the difference between a chest and a drive is a drive actually holds 10 different storage disks. But the downside is you can't manually input the items into the chest. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the 1K storage drive back in here, and then you'll see now the Emmy network shows I have an Emmy Chest and an Emmy Drive. So the next thing you want to say, well, if I have a chest or if I have a drive and I don't use a chest, how do I access my items? Well, that's where the next thing comes into play, and you're going to want a, I have it right here, a access terminal. So if we place the access terminal just on top of here, you're going to see now I can access all my items. It's very, very cool. So you need an access terminal with a drive to be able to access your items, unlike a chest where you can access them through the chest. So also, you don't need cables to connect these. It can connect to any adjacent blocks, stuff like that. That's a very cool thing about the Emmy network, Applied Energistics. So a third type of storage is, these are actually kind of hard to make, so I don't know why you would do this super early on, but you have a storage bus. Now, a storage bus, you look at it and you're like, well, I've used Applied Energistics before. You can't just store stuff on a storage bus. Well, that's where you can start using other things like a chest or a barrel or a deep storage unit for Mine Factory Reloaded, which holds 2 billion of one item. And you have a lot of versatile options with all the different mods, and this is compatible with most of the mods you're going to see with all the mod packs you play with. So now let's take out let's access our stuff. And then let's do this. We take out all the items, you're going to notice there's 0 bytes in this and 0 of 63 types. So let's put our stone in here, and then you're going to click on it and you'll notice, oh wow, the storage bus actually, sees everything in the chest. So now I can look in both of these, and you can see that I can access them from both places. So this is very cool because you have three different options of storing things. And it's pretty cool. So now that we have this, you're like, well, what else can I do? Well, let's go into some of the options of the storage bus. You have all kinds of new stuff here. You have partitions, you have input output, then you have allowed only listed items. So one of the first things you need to know with a lot of the different items in Applied Energistics is they'll usually have this thing right here called storage priority. So let's go ahead and grab, let's put all this stuff back real quick. And let's go ahead and throw away this access terminal, this drive, this Emmy Chest, and this controller. And let's throw in another one of these, and let's throw in another chest. Oh, let's kill this, let's kill this, let's do this. And that brings me to my next point. Now you're saying, well, these aren't connected. What do I do then? Well, Applied Energistics does add a cable, and if I can find it here, here we go. So you have three different types of cable. You have an Emmy cable, which if we look up Emmy cable, you're going to notice that there's a bunch of cables here besides the ones I have listed. Well, Emmy cable can come in a bunch of different variety of colors, which you can use to segment parts of your network or color code your networks or have sub-networks that aren't connecting, things like that. And we'll get into that more a little bit later in the video. So we can take a Emmy cable, and the Emmy cables are pretty easy to make. We just, boom, connect it. And you see it nice and fluid. It connects nice and smooth. So you'll see that we have two storage buses, each with a chest. Now, some of the things you can do that makes this mod pretty cool is, let's go in and grab our items real quick. And then let's put storage priority to 64. Now, storage priority says that anything higher than another thing gets priority. So, for example, the storage priority for this is 64 now, and the storage priority for this is 1. So the items are going to automatically pick this first over this item here. So let's go ahead and throw our items back in. Now if we look in this chest, none of the items are in this chest. If we look in this chest, all of the items are in this chest. You can also set up storage priority for drives, and you can set storage priority for chests. You can also set priority to a few other things, I'm pretty sure. Now this is really useful. So one of the first things you can do is, for example, you see this right here. You can actually set up items that you only want this to hold. So let's say I only want this to hold stone, and it has a priority of 64. So it's going to look for stone in this part of the network before any other part of the network. So let's go ahead and place all of our items back in here. And we're going to notice that if we look in the first chest, it's only going to have dirt, cobblestone, and oak planks, but in the second chest, we're going to have stone, which is very neat. So now let's take all the items out again, and then let's look at some other options. Now right here, this is a new thing. They've changed the GUI a little bit where it adds other stuff. Now you can set it to allowed. It'll only accept the listed items, which is stone. Then you can reject items listed, which is stone. So this will accept everything except for stone. So let's go ahead and put everything back in here. So what we should see is this has the other three items, oak planks, dirt, and cobblestone, and this has stone. Very, very cool. Now let's look at some of the other options here. Okay, so there's only two options, whitelisted and blacklisted pretty much. So you can do all kinds of stuff with this. I'm not going to go into the way you can use this and all that stuff. Now let's look at input-output mode. First you have bidirectional, extract only, insert only, and bidirectional. So bidirectional is obviously input-output, and this is extract only, and this is insert only. So if I set this to insert only, and I put it's set for stone, then what it's going to do is put everything in the network. So stone will go back here, all the other three items will go back here, but as you can see, the stone's not popping up in the network because I have this set to insert only. I cannot take from this chest at all, which is very cool. Of course, the third way is extract only, so I will only be able to take things from this chest. I will not be able to insert them. So if I stick this here, it will not go into this chest, even though I have it set for stone and priority is high. Okay, so I think that about covers all the new features of the storage bus. Let's go ahead and start looking at some other blocks. So we have our basic network here, and you might be asking, well, what else can I do? Okay, so before we actually get into other stuff, I'm going to cover the other cable types. So I told you there's the normal Emmy cable, which looks like this, and you can color this different colors to have different segmented networks and things like this. We also have the covered cable, which, as you see, the covered cable is covered The difference between these two is this shows, this renders a little light particle effect every once in a while. And this will also do it in sections, like right here it'll show the little light effect, but it won't show it throughout the entire cable. So I'm assuming that saves on rendering a little bit. You also have the dark cable, which is very useful. So for example, let's go ahead and take all of these items out. Let's set this to bi-directional mode, only accept the listed items. Cool. Let's put all of the stuff, actually, let's put all the stuff inside of this. So you're going to notice they all pop up, and then we're looking here, and you'll notice all 4 items are in here. You're saying, well, why didn't it go to this? Well, that's the feature of the dark cable. As you see, it's dark right now, so that means it's actually powered off. This actually isn't connected to the network right now. But if we take a lever, we right-click it, you'll notice that it's actually powered on. So we can remove the stone, replace the stone back in here, and you'll notice it'll be in this chest now since it's actually part of the network. We'll power it off. Look back in here, you'll notice the stone's not in here anymore, even though it's still in the chest. That's because it's been broke off of the network. So you can use this to turn off, you can segment up your network into different parts and turn them off manually if you want to save on power, or if you have a device that requires something like that. So it's very powerful. You can do a lot of different stuff with it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this back on. So the next thing we're going to look at is I showed you the crafting, or the Emmy terminal. Now we're going to show you something else that's really cool, and it's called the crafting terminal. So if we place this here, you're going to notice, oh, well, it kind of looks the same. Well, it is the same, except for the crafting terminal also has a crafting grid. So we're going to look at some of the options. If you have a bunch of items in your Emmy network, you can sort by name, number of items, priority, item ID, and all this stuff. You can also have sorting order. You can either have it ascending or descending. You can have it viewed to stored items only, to craftable items only, and both. And then I'll get to the craftable items here in a little bit. So, and then you have something new called the search box mode. So auto search is going to do something. So the difference between auto search and standard search is standard search, if I right click on here and try to type something, I can't type something. But if we set this back to auto search and I right click, it's automatically going to put my cursor into this. Whereas standard search doesn't put my cursor into the top part here, so I can't immediately start typing. I would have to actually, if I type, nothing happens. If I click in here and type, something happens. So that's just in case you want to set it to whatever you want. It's just preference, really. And then we have different types of things. We have NEI synchronization, or synchronized auto. So what this means is if I search something like, let's see, wood. Ah, crap. Okay. Now, if I search something like wood... Oh, wait, no, I'm doing this wrong. Okay, so we realized auto means it automatically puts your cursor up here. So now if I search something called wood, it's going to automatically search down here in NEI. So this is good if you're looking for, like, whatever, really. Like, if you want to look up for a recipe or something. Actually, let's do a subpart like... sticks. Of course, I'm doing this wrong again. Sticks. And then we can, like look up recipes and all that stuff. It's very cool. It automatically synchronizes NEI with your Emmy system. And then you have standard, which just means you have to re-click up here in the top. So that's some of the new changes. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. I think it's awesome. So also you're going to notice a crafting grid here. Well, you can of course take your items and use it like a normal crafting table. And the way Emmy works is I'll be able to use this wood to craft multiple chests because it'll still see that I have wood in the Emmy system. Now if I use this to craft, if I use all of it to craft chests, then you'll see that the recipe disappears. But let's go ahead and grab wood again. Stick it in here. Another cool thing you might want to do is if you're looking up for a recipe and you say, oh, well, I don't really feel like crafting it manually. Let's just use NEI. NEI or Emmy now supports NEI functions. So you can take here and you can shift click the question mark, automatically pop in your crafting window. Of course, this works for normal crafting benches. It works for all kinds of random stuff, and then I'll be able to, you know, still craft this. So very powerful stuff. You can do a lot of things with it. So the next thing we want to look at is probably some other stuff you can add to your network. So we looked up, we've covered storage, we've covered monitors. Now let's go into crafting a little bit, and I'll cover some of the random miscellaneous blocks. So let's say, well, I kind of already know all this stuff. I want to actually craft. So what we want to do is, actually, let me get rid of, before we do this, let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff here. Now let's grab this. So you're going to need a couple things for automatic crafting. First thing you're going to need is, well, the four things you're going to need is you're going to need a heat vent, you're going to need crafting, I guess I should do this. It does show up on the bottom when you scroll, but I'll do this. You're going to need a heat vent, you're going to need a Emmy crafting CPU, you're going to need an Emmy assembler containment wall, and a pattern provider. So this is pretty much, as Potter likes to call it, the board cube. This is pretty much a thing where you can make this any size and shape you want, but I'm just going to do a standard 2x2 shape. So what the assembler containment wall is it's your outer lines. So what you want to build is you kind of want to build the frame of whatever size you want with this first. So let's go ahead and build the frame out. And then let's go, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to stick heat vents in between where the frame is. So you want to stick it right here, right here, right here, right here, and then, you know, just all the empty gaps right here, and you're only going to leave the center spot. Now you have two different options when you're doing this. You have assembler or you have crafting CPUs, and you have pattern providers. Now I'm going to explain the difference between each. So the pattern providers are the things that hold your patterns, which are your crafting recipes, and we'll get to that here in a second. And then you have the crafting CPU, which is the processing power of crafting. So the more crafting CPUs you have, the faster, the more tasks it's going to be able to do simultaneously and fast, and it's going to just make the speed of your crafting network better. So what people like to do is usually keep it maybe half and half up to a certain point. So let's put half crafting CPUs in here and half pattern providers. So you'll notice if I right click on the pattern providers, you'll see all these blank spots, and these are actually where you store blank patterns for recipes. Now let's go ahead and fill this up. And just to recover, crafting CPU is the processing of crafting. So the more of these you have, the faster it's going to craft, the more things it's going to be able to do simultaneously. So now as you see, as I finish it up, I put the last two heat vents, it formed up into a cube. Now like I said, you can make this a 5x3 or a 10x12 or any random shape you want, and that's pretty cool. It's pretty much just a multi-block structure that goes in any shape. Now as you see, it's not connected to my network right now, so I could have actually built this adjacent to these two blocks right here, or one of these blocks, and it would have automatically connected to the network. But we're going to go ahead and just grab a cable real quick, and we're just going, oh, that is a dark cable. Let's go ahead and do Emmy cable, and just connect it right up like this. Cool, and you'll see that this is connected now. You'll notice I put 4 pattern encoders in here, so I have 4 pages of patterns I can store. The more pattern encoders, each one counts for a page, so if I had 16 pattern encoders, then it would be 16 pages. Let's see, let's go ahead and throw all this stuff away. Let's look up, oh, I think I threw this away. Okay, so for the actual crafting part of this, you're going to need 1 block, and this actually doesn't have to be touching the network because it's not actually a powered block. You don't need power, and it's just going to kind of look like a crafting table. So what this is actually used for is crafting items. So this is where the blank patterns come in handy. So if we look up blank patterns here, blank patterns are just, you know, they're nothing at first, but you can stick them in here, and you'll see they go in this slot right here. So what this is used for
is, let's say I want my Emmy network to automatically know how to craft chests, for example. We're going to stick with chests. So, chest. So what we can do is, this actually has NEI built in too. We can go ahead and shift click right here. Shift left click the question mark, it'll automatically pop up in here. And you see this is just pretty much like the ore dictionary for freaking wood. It shows all the different types of wood. You can hit encode and you can hit encode and stick this in here. And it's going to know how to craft a chest. Well, the cool thing about ME is it, like, let's see, it only, as you can see now, it shows craftable items too, because we have it on stored/craftable. We could set it to only stored items, to only craftable items, so it can only see your chests or whatever, or stored/craftable. So let's go ahead and craft one of these. As you can see, this in here, it shows, well, Media Lock, there's like 10 different types of wood in here. How does it know? Well, automatically knows, because all the wood is actually in the ore dictionary is like the same type of wood. Also, any items that are like copper, like right here, there's 3 different type of copper. As you see, all different IDs. Some of them have damage values, like the colon 64. All of these are actually in the ore dictionary and forge by default as being the same copper. So, for example, if you have more of one type of copper than another, the ME is automatically going to know it can use all of the copper for crafting recipes. So it's very powerful like that. And that brings us to our next point. So hopefully you guys understand this. You can set this to craft pretty much anything. I think on my world I have like over 10 pages filled with crafting recipes for industrial craft, applied energistics, all those items, vanilla items, anything. You can craft anything that's in NEI. So that brings us up to our next item. So the next item is going to be, okay, let's start looking at all of the basic buses and stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's place down a chest, just right here. Now you're going to notice that there's different types of import buses and export buses and fuzzy and basic and all this stuff, and I'm going to try to explain all of these as best as possible. So we've already covered one thing, and that's storage buses, and we know that this actually looks at inventories as chests, so you can access those items inside of your ME system. So the next thing we're going to look up is we're going to look at import and export. So the first stage of import and export is you have the basics. Let me find the basic right here. So you have the basics. So what you can do is you can set this to, this is a basic import bus. So what this is going to do is import anything that's in this chest into the ME system. Let's go ahead and stick this chest in here. As you can see, they're sucking out. Cool. And then this, so that's what an import bus is. It just sucks things out. An export bus obviously puts things in. You're going to notice, well, how do I specify? Well, you right click on the export bus and you can set an item. Let's go ahead and set a piece of wood into this. You can also shift click items in the slots with Applied Energistics. It's very cool. You're going to notice it's going to start putting in oak planks because I specified this export oak planks into this. You can use this to automate pretty much any machine. You can set up so it automatically import finished products like iron ore and all this stuff into the ME network from your machines automatically. So it's very powerful. You can use this in pretty much any combination. I'm not going to go into the combinations. So as you see, all of the wood is in here. So that brings us to our next thing. We have the precision import bus. So we're going to notice at first it just, let's go ahead and take these items out. At first, it looks like the same. It's still importing automatically, but you right click it, you notice it has this little GUI right here. Also has some other things here. So the first thing we're going to look at is it has stack modes. So if I put on stack mode and stick this in here, it's going to suck all of them out. And then you're also going to notice it's going to have all these slots available. Well, media, what does these slots do? Well, you can set this as kind of like a black or as a white list, kind of like with the storage buses. You can set this as a white list. So we can set this to only import stone and cobblestone. So we're going to stick all these items in here. You'll notice the stone and cobblestone get sucked up, but the dirt and the wood planks do not get sucked up. Very, very cool. Also, you have this redstone mode. Always active means no matter if you have a redstone signal on it or whatever, it's going to always work. You have active without signal, so if you do not have a redstone signal, let's go ahead and grab a lever. Let's go ahead and grab a lever and put it right there. So it's active without signal, so it doesn't have a signal right now. It's going to go ahead and suck up the stone and cobblestone. But let's say we don't want it to suck up stone and cobblestone. So you can turn this on, and since it's receiving a redstone signal, it will not suck up the stone and cobblestone. See, nothing's happening. Now we can set this to, let's go ahead and turn this back off. You see it sucks it back up. Let's go ahead and turn this to active with signal. So if this has a signal, it's going to suck things up. But right now it doesn't have a signal, so it's just going to stay in the chest. We turn it on, it sucks both of them up. And then now we have activate once per pulse, which is pretty self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And once per pulse is once per redstone pulse. So you're going to notice it's going to suck up, since I have it set on stack mode, it's only going to suck up one stack per pulse. As you see, it left the cobblestone in here. Let's go ahead and do that again. And it sucked up the cobblestone. And then that's the last of the options. Awesome. You can obviously, these are very powerful. You can use this to do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Now, the next thing is going to be, we have the import bus. So let's go ahead. We've already covered that, precision import bus. Let's cover the precision export bus. So precision export bus is just like the import, except for it puts things into this chest. And you notice it has all the same options. It has stack mode. It has single item / craft, which I'll get that in a second. Always craft items, move single items, move stacks. So then it has all the same redstone mode. So what we can do is we can set this to, let's see, we'll set this to only import stone. Let's take these items out. You're going to notice it automatically import the stone because it's set on stack mode. Very, very cool. Okay, so let's talk about single item / craft. So what this means is, let's go ahead and grab a chest. So our Emmy network knows how to craft chests. So what this means, if I stick a chest in here, the move single item / craft means is it's going to, if I put this in here, it's going to move all my chests into this chest right here. So we have chestception going on. So put this in here. It's going to move all my chests from my Emmy network into this, and then it's going to start crafting chests with the rest of my wood, which is very cool. So if you want to set up auto crafting for something, like for example, if you want to have a chest filled with whatever chests, then you can set up for it to do that. That way you always have chests handy. You can also stick a storage bus in under this, and it's automatically going to connect back to your network. Very cool. So now that we have exporting auto crafting chests and moving chests, now our network is going to show all the chests that's in there. Very, very cool. So you can set this to do a lot of different things. Automatically craft chest, fill up this chest, and then as long as you have wood, you'll be able to access your Emmy network from any of your bases and be able to grab chests and not have to worry about it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is fuzzy. So as you might expect, Fuzzy is going to be exactly the same as precision buses. So if we set up a fuzzy import bus, it's going to and kill this. It's going to start sucking up the chest. It works just like a precision import bus. You have all the same options as you had before: stack of items, single items, all the redstone options, except for now you have the split damage option. What this means is, for example, let's grab a another chest and a import bus. And let's set up a chest let's set up a chest right here with a import bus on it. So, and then let's grab 3 different types of copper. Copper. Also, fuzzy is very useful for machines, and I'll show you why here in a second. So, if I set this to import copper, and let's set this to stack mode, it's going to import only this type of copper. Let's go ahead and shove all of this copper in. You'll notice, oh, my bad. That's with export bus. So you're going to notice that it's only going to suck out that one type of copper. Now the cool thing about fuzzy is if I specify a copper type, let's use the same copper, then it's going to import all types of copper, even though that's what fuzzy functionality is it imports all of the same item, even if they have different IDs, different damage values. So this would be good if you have diamond swords and some of them damage, some of them are full, some of them have enchants, some of them are about to break. It'll look at all the diamond swords as the exact same item. Any ores that are in the ore dictionary and forge by default will be looked at as the exact same item. This is useful for machines that process, so instead of putting all your different types of copper and bronze and whatever in there, you only now have to put one type of copper and set it to import the one type of copper. It'll automatically import everything that you process that's copper, no matter what. We can also use this for export, so it's pretty much the same thing. You can export one type of copper in here and put this back in the network. It's going to look at all the copper as the same thing. Now what this does is you can set specific things. Split damage 99%, which pretty much looks at like all the different ores and stuff. 75, 50, 25, match any. So what split damage at 50% means is, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it'll only look at things that are below 50% damage, or maybe above. I'm not exactly sure. You're going to have to play with that yourself. But I always just use the default mode because I never actually need to use the split damage mode. So yeah, that's fuzzy functionality. Of course, you also have, let's throw these away since we've already looked at everything. You also have fuzzy storage buses, which would do the exact same thing. If you specify one type of copper in here with a fuzzy bus, let's go ahead and kill this, place this on here. If you specify one type of copper in here, it's going to store all types of copper in this chest. Very self-explanatory. Very, very useful, very, very powerful. So I think now that we've covered the basics of the cables, how networks work, storage and stuff, I'm going to pause, take a break for a second, and then we're going to start covering other machines. Okay, so I'm back. I think that's going to be the end of part 1. I just realized that the video is like 40 minutes long, and I actually didn't cover that much stuff. But hopefully, since I covered everything in such detail, you guys completely understand the basics of Applied Energistics, and hopefully it helps you out. If you guys enjoyed this, I would love to see your feedback on it. If you have questions, I will help you. Also, if you guys could smash the crap out of that like button, that would be amazing, because I'm working really hard on this mod spotlight stuff. I'm trying to explain everything in best of detail as possible. So this will probably be a 2 or 3 part spotlight, so expect the other parts here soon. I love your faces, and I'll see you guys next time.